Welcome to What Was He Thinking? My name is A.B. Bracewell. Today I'm going to be your personal tour guide through a man's psyche. Take this journey as we explore why a man thinks the way he thinks, why a man acts the way he acts, and why a man feels the way he feels. No questions off limits, and no topics too hard. By the end of the show, you'll have a better insight and a better understanding of who we are as men. Welcome to another episode of What Was He Thinking? I'm your host, A.B. Bracewell. In this season, we will be talking about the sexual education of Black men in America. If you've seen the other episodes, you've seen that I had some very special guests where we sit down and we talk about how men learn about sex, how Black men are conditioned about sex, and how that affects our behaviors, how it affects the way we behave in relationships, how it affects our community, and just how it affects the way we think and view women and overall the way we live. So this is part two of the episode that was on last week. And this week, we're going to have the ladies on the show. And she's going to put all my guests on the hot seat. They were backstage listening to our conversation, just like you were. And they have some questions, not only from our conversation, but they have some questions of their own. They have some opinions. They have some thoughts that they have to add to the conversation that we held on the last episode. So without further ado, I'm going to bring my guests back on. I'm going to have the ladies introduce themselves. But there's some very special young ladies that I've grown to develop a good friendship with, a good relationship with. And they're just very opinionated and have some good ideas about the topic that we're going to be speaking about. So just allow me to bring LaWanda and Deanna to the set. As I said, now this is your show now. This is still What Was He Thinking, but this is the part of the show where we allow the young ladies to dive deep into our minds, ask whatever question you might have about the sexual education of Black men in America. We know that as men, as Black men, sex is a very big part of what we do, how we think, how we behave. So, we're here, and we're here for it. I'm sure you got questions. I was listening to the conversation.
Yes.
The table is yours.
We were listening.
So, yes, I want to know, do you guys, in terms of, okay, what was he thinking? Is sex really at the top of the list? I'm talking friendship, romanticism, marriage. Is sex the number one priority for men?
I think initially, you can hear
Oh,
me.
Lawanda, they quiet now.
I was
We
going
can
to
hear
say
you.
that.
We
I
can
was
hear
just
you.
trying to
No,
say that.
we just trying to give everybody their turn.
I think,
Oh,
I think
okay.
I definitely think initially, sex is at the forefront. The sexual attraction, the physical attraction is definitely at the forefront. As you get through, like further along in the relationship, it becomes less, but not important at all. But it becomes less important. But definitely in the beginning, I would say, sex and that sexual energy is very important and is at the top of the list.
I agree. I think sex is as far as I think for men, that's the first thing we pay attention to. And I think it also carries into the marriage because I know for one thing, two things that destroy marriage is bad money and bad sex. So
Mm.
if you can start it off with good sex, you can at least start on the right foot until y'all get to the other part. Hey,
I'll have to agree. Like, sex is very important. Sex is very important. I'm pretty sure that we always realize after a while that sex is not the most important, but going in and starting, like, we're visual creatures. We like the look of a woman, the shape, the looks, all that stuff. So that speaks directly to our sexual appetite. And you know, now when we say sex is important, that doesn't always mean that sex is the only thing that we're always after. but it is important. It is at very up there on the top of the list. So I don't want y'all to mix that we saying that it's important, that's the only thing we always want. So but it will always be at the top of the list.
I mean, I gotta say, sex is probably 1A, and then communication is probably 1B. Because when I first meet you, I'm not thinking about who I want to communicate with. I'm thinking about, yo, shorty's bad. I'm trying to smash. And then if after I get to know you and I feel like you're serious, or you have the same goals that I have, and you're trying to achieve the same things that I'm trying to achieve, then maybe sex becomes a little bit less important. But at the end of the day, I'm still gonna want sex, and it's still gonna be a very high priority.
Men and women are taught, or we'll say males and females, or girls and boys are taught to view sex in two very different ways from the onset. You guys expressed that it was like, it was an accomplishment. It was all about the reputation. It was a trophy. It was like, yo, son, yo, young boy, you hit that yet? All those things. And so it's a pat on the back. It's a dap. Because dang, you had your first piece, all of those things. But on the flip side of that, the same young girl is taught, save yourself. Hold yourself. You're precious. Don't give it up. Don't do anything. This, and the other. So now, as we grow and mature as men and women, we're starting to relate to each other on a level where automatically we're viewing sex as two different things. I think I'm not going to try to or attempt to speak for women in general, but I think a lot of times women feel like, dang, if I just meet him, like Trail was just saying, or Jalil was saying, dang, if I just meet him and yeah, I think he's sexy, I think he's cute, this and the other, but I don't want to come across as a whore. I don't want to come across as a thought. I don't want to come across as easy. So I'm going to hold off sex for a while. And now it becomes like this, it may become like a push and pull kind of a thing, because you guys are saying your approach.
Oh,
Wow.
Oh, she cut off.
She was on the
You didn't
roll.
like what she was saying? What happened?
Just getting good, you know what I mean?
yeah.
She was on the roll.
I do agree with her, and I found that even though you guys' stories were different, I found something similar with all you guys. Every last one of your experiences, your first being aware of sex was based on an experience and not really a lesson or a conversation from either a male authority figure. So I found that, like, wow, all these guys, each one of you, your first being aware of sex was through this experience and not really being a lesson. So maybe that have from that experience, it kind of changed the way you guys think or approach women being that objective. That's probably where it kind of have started from. Like Deanna was saying, like as we were growing up as I guess young girls, we were being taught to save ourselves. I mean, my first experience was a lesson. It wasn't, hey, I can't say it was more of an experience, more of a lesson, because we are taught, listen, your body is sacred. You save. We're taught marriage first. Even when we get toys and we're giving dolls and we're giving games, they're teaching us. For women, they're teaching us. For girls, it's saying save yourself. So this experience is like a little different. So how we saw sex and those type of things growing up is totally different. So when we do come together, it is this whole different notion of experience, as Deanna was saying.
To piggyback off of that, like it seems like when we're younger, it's like a game.
Right.
Because basically what it is you guys are taught to save yourselves. We're taught to go out and smash and hunt and pray and and all that. And then it's a game. It's like, all right, well, I know she know. Like I've dealt with chicks before at my younger age, and I know, like they didn't want, some of them were virgins, some of them were like, no, I don't want to do it. And you develop sense of a conversation with them, and more and more you converse, more and more you slowly peeling off those layers of that security for her, so you can end up to your end goal. Because and I feel you, and because me having 3 or 4 daughters or so, I'm saying the same thing. Like, I'm telling my youngest daughter, like, don't be letting no dude smash, and it seems contradictory because, as at her age, I'm trying to smash, but I'm trying to let, as we get older and we learn, like, like that ain't it.
Yeah. And also to add to what you were saying, LaWanda, I think the bigger issue is not only that how we learn was through experience, is probably was the things that we was learning. Because we could have had some good experiences that would have taught us, save yourself for marriage or save yourself for that special one. But it's the type of experiences that was influencing us that led us down a road of, objectifying women, or, sex is a trophy. I mean, sex is, just for a trophy, or to gain something like status. So, they always say experience is the best teacher. But I think the thing that went wrong, or the thing that was unhealthy for a lot of Black men, is that the type of experiences that we had, the type of influences that we had in our lives, the environment that we grew up in, the music that we listened to, all those things added to the way we viewed sex and the way we viewed women.
So do you guys feel that your earlier experiences with sex, do you feel that it at all impacted or affected your self-esteem? Like, or how did it affect your self-esteem as a man now?
I would say that it definitely affect our self-esteem. I mean, as we were saying earlier, that's what we kind of measured our self-esteem and our self-worth by. I mean, how much sex we had or how many women we could get. So it definitely, I mean, it was equal. If you wasn't having sex or you wasn't getting girls, I'm kind of like Sando said in the other episode, that we'll lie about it. Oh, so yeah, we was doing, yeah, we were, or we just won't talk about it. But it's definitely tied to our self-esteem. It's tied to our manhood. It's tied to the way that we look at ourselves, if we're accepted in the cool group. Yeah, so yeah, it's definitely a way. Sex is the way we measured ourselves growing up as young men.
So, but how does that translate now as a grown man? How does sex affect your self-esteem now as not only just a grown man, but like many of you are a married man?
I'm gonna go back to that last question because and then kind of interweave into that. I think for me, and I can only speak about my experience, I don't think so much sex was a self-esteem changer or anything. I think women in general kind of play on your self-esteem. I think for me, like, because I can look back and see when I was younger, and it wasn't so much about the sex, but it was so much about how many women, beautiful women, he can talk to, or beautiful girls at the time he could talk to. And then it's like a social status thing. So like when you get into middle school and high school, they're like, yo, you used to go with her? Oh, she bad. It was never like, oh, did you smash? Sometimes it was if you smashed or whatever, but most of the times, like, oh, you went with her? And then the next fly girl will be like, oh, I gotta date him too. And I think so much that was the elevation of self-esteem. I think sex probably just played more of, for me, like a bonus, but I think it was more of how many women I could date or be with or be around and things of that nature that kind of caused, my self-esteem to grow. But as I got married, it was like, I think with marriage is different. It's like the self-esteem is there when you're married. At the end of the day, when you're trying to find your mate, you're not so much worried about that self-esteem because it's just in you. That confidence is in you. And now it's just about let's focus on if this chick's going to be the right person for me, if she's going to be compatible, and how much BS I got to deal with, because you're going to always deal with some woman's BS. It ain't like you're going to get in a perfect relationship and the woman's going to be just perfect all around. She's going to have issues. She might have daddy, daughter issues. She might have self-esteem issues, but she's going to have issues. Women are a big bag of emotions where men are the total opposite. So as you got married, it's Cap. As you get married, the self-esteem thing is not a big factor. It's really not for me.
Let me hop in and let me give my perspective on that question. I think, as speaking personally, as I've developed into a man, as I got older, sex didn't really play a part into building my self-esteem. And I think, a big part of it is that I did so much during my younger years that, now that I'm a grown man, like that, it's kind of like the been there, done that thing. Like, so that stuff doesn't feed my ego anymore. Now I'm at a stage in life where I want more and I need more in order for me to feel good. And I know where sex or casual sex could lead to now. Before, when I was just exploring and it fed my ego and I was trying to impress my friends and I was trying to be cool and all that stuff mattered, then yeah, it probably fed to my self-esteem. But when you hit a certain age in a certain level of maturity, like sex, it's still fun, it's still good, but it's not attached to your self-esteem as much as when you're younger.
Okay. This question for DJ Trell: that experience you had when you were 8 years old, do you think it affected your future experience of how you see women? Do you think that's the beginning of where it all started?
I think, wow, that's a good question. I think I may have been too young to actually analyze it and put it in that perspective. I don't think I really start to get the gist of dating women and, the kind of sexual encounters I had until maybe when I got about like 12, 13. So I think that experience was just overly weird to me. And after I left that room or that, that apartment, I just kind of forgot it, in a sense of, being a sex, like I didn't count that as a sexual experience. I counted that as a bunch of kids ain't know what the hell don't know what they doing. So
Will we all agree that most of your experience are kind of typical to like the average Black man at this stage of life, right? In terms of early on exposure to sex, the average Black man in America probably has a very similar story. Now, do you guys think that you're having so much sex? I'm gonna give y'all props and say y'all had a lot of sex as boys growing up. Having all of this or engaging in so much sex, do you think as an adult it caused you to be like emotionally detached or emotionally unavailable as an adult in sexual relationships with women?
I would say, like, in the environment that I grew up in, and the people I grew up around, that yeah, that wasn't taught. Like, it wasn't taught for us to be very emotionally expressive. Like, being in love and being vulnerable and communicating your feelings is not something that was encouraging dudes where I grew up. Where in my environment, we was more shown to be defensive, be aggressive, have the whole wall up, protect yourself. And when it came to relationships and women, it was more kind of what we said before. If you talking to a girl, you're talking to her to have sex. You're not talking to her because you want to be in a long-term relationship, or you want to profess your love to them or something like that. It was really the objectification. It was, you're going after sex. So it goes back to what we was taught, the environment that we grew up in, how we was conditioned to just look at women, to looking at relationships. It's not till I got older and started to learn and see different examples and see how things that I did when I was younger, and I didn't have that much sex as a young man, by the way, but seeing the things that I did and how it affected women and how it impacted their lives, how it hurt them, which made me start to change and look at emotions and things of that nature. But yeah, growing up, yeah, emotions really didn't play a part in it.
So one of the I think it was question number 6 was for a single man trying to control his sexual urges, what advice would you give? And and it was based on AB was saying, as they're transitioning into marriage, like what advice would you give? And I want to know, like, forget single men, like as men in general, how are you controlling your urges to remain committed to a monogamous relationship, single, married, or otherwise? Like, what do you, as a man, what does that process look like for you? Be it spiritual guidance or whatever it may be. What is that process for you? So that, because I think that naturally men crave variety, and in particular sexual variety. And now when you're talking about being in a monogamous relationship and being married, some of you said 11 years, 12 years. We know Trail said forget the first one, we working on the second one now. But how do you guys control yourselves like sexually, so that you've war against your nature and that you commit? Or do you not control yourself?
I mean, it definitely ain't easy, because keep in mind, for every one guy, it's like 20 women in this world or something like that. And I mean, I think it's 11. I think it comes down to what you got to lose. Is me going out there sleeping with this chick worth losing everything I gained with the wife I'm with now? And I think that's what comes down to it, because I mean, it ain't like it's hard to go out and smash a chick. It's real. It's been real easy for me. I mean, I've turned away a lot of women, and I'm like, yo, like, I don't know how dudes can do it. Cause I mean, I'm like, like, but the one thing when a chick come up to you, she like, hey, how you doing? And blah, blah, blah. You be like, I'm married. Like, and that don't even work. Just, you married? Oh, I'm married too. And then it's like, oh my God, like, you know what I mean? And if she looked good and the body right, you like, oh man, but I got a lot to lose. And as you start to think about what you got to lose, because women don't get unattractive when you get married. They still unattractive and they still coming after you regardless. So then you have to think about, like, is it worth it? And when you start thinking about, is it worth it? It's like, nah, I'm good.
You ever notice that when you're single or when you don't have somebody, nobody hits you up at the moment you get somebody, everybody wants you? Anybody experience that?
Mm-hmm.
It's no different when you get married. It's no different when you get married. And to be honest with you, it seems like women gravitate towards you more when they see a ring, because I think they see that whole side of stability. Like, what does he have that this woman is willing to spend the rest of her life with? And if they even know what you do for your family, that's another thing. So it's hard. It's hard. It's not easy. And I think the easiest way to do it, and I agree with Trill 120%, is to think about what you got to lose. So yeah, I slip up, and then she decides she want to come and expose me, or I mess up and get her pregnant, or something stupid. You just lost everything that you done built over the past. I've been with my 20 some years, so it's just like that. You're throwing everything away for a fling. and it's not worth it. So I agree with you. It really boils down to what do you have to lose if you cross that line and take that chance.
Yeah, definitely echo those same sentiments. That's definitely a huge deterrent if you just put into perspective what you have to lose. And then also to help, stay, is to stay out of situations that can lead you into doing something that you're not supposed to be doing or you don't want to do. Um, that's, that's the recipe. Like, I shouldn't be around you by yourself where something can happen. So you just sort of try to, stay out of situations. And, you know, I mean, we've been around. We know how things work. Like, Trail said, what she wants with the high. I mean, you the DJ. You know what she wants. So I mean, you just sort of try to stay out of those situations. And I think I mean, it is a lot to lose. I mean, we all got kids, the wife. It's just, it's a lot to lose for, like you just said, what is essentially a fling. So those are, huge deterrents. And it still comes down to you trying to make sure you make the right decision.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm not a married man. So the part of I definitely have some stuff to lose, but it's probably not the same as the married man on the panel. I think now the biggest deterrent for me is really changing things that I used to do. I'm a different guy. There was a time in our lives when all four of us, we lived for the weekend. All we wanted to do was party or go on trips. And the purpose of those trips was to find women. And purpose of going to the clubs was to find women. But I don't do that stuff no more. I don't go out every weekend. I barely go out every 2 months. So I've taken myself out of certain environments. That deters that behavior. So I don't drink as much as I used to do. I don't hang around in environments where stuff like that is where I used to go to look for women and stuff like that. So, and other than stopping from doing other stuff, I had to start doing stuff. So I had to focus my life to different things, different goals, different responsibilities, spirituality, writing books, working, trying to progress in my career. Doing all that stuff is a deterrent from chasing women. Because if I'm so busy doing that stuff, trying to make money, trying to be a good father to my son, trying to be a good brother to my siblings, what time do I have? I don't even have the interest to chase women, especially not for sex anymore. So, and I could. I mean, there's some stuff I would probably lose, some a reputation or something like that. But unlike the married man, I don't have a wife that I say I'll lose my wife. But there's other things in my life that that could get damaged. AB was around here just having sex with random women and stuff like that. But I think the biggest part for me was that I had to start putting things in my life that was more important than casual sex. Chasing my goals and stuff like that. And that's been my deterrent. And when all that fails, I try to turn to God and pray about it. But that's it. So let me thank you guys for being a part of the show. I hope you guys got something out of this conversation. I'm sure I can tell you that I definitely did. And I just, check in, stay connected, leave your comments, give your thumbs up as you watch it, share it as you watch it. And I just want to say good night, and God bless.
All right. Nice.